Hi, I'm Eliot from Magoosh, and in this video, we're going to think about what you need to do to get a band 8 in the writing section. Okay, so some tips, things you need to understand. First of all, what is involved in getting a band 8? What does the scoring rubric say about getting a band 8 score and what you need to do? And then some tips on how to actually get that score, what you need to do and make sure you're doing in your writing practice and then on exam day in order to get that very high score. Okay, so let's look through each of the band score categories to understand what's there and what you should do to make sure you are meeting that standard for your writing. Okay, so for grammatical range and accuracy, the first category in your band score, in the rubric for your writing section, they want to see you doing 3 things to get a band 8. Okay, they want to see that you're using a wide range of structures. They want to make sure that you should make sure that your sentences are error-free, or at least the majority of them are error-free, and that you make only occasional errors or inappropriate uses of grammar in your response. Okay, so what should you do to achieve this band score level for grammatical range and accuracy? A couple of things as you practice. First of all, obviously, you need to be editing your grammar as you're practicing, right? This happens in your practice as something that you spend a long time on, hopefully, right? So you write a response, you write your task 2 or task 1 response, you put it away, you come back to it, and you work on editing your grammar mistakes. If you've got a native speaker or a teacher who can help you discover and find those mistakes, that's all the better. If not, you're going to have to do this on your own. The only way to really make sure that your sentences are getting more and more accurate and free of errors is to go through and spend a lot of time and all the hard work editing and finding your mistakes as you write. Okay, so there's no way around it. You need to put in that hard work. On exam day, on the actual day of the exam, you should try to make sure your timing works out for both task 1 and task 2 to give yourself at least a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 or hopefully 3 minutes to go back through and edit your response. You need to do your best to try to find those silly little mistakes that you know are wrong, but you just make them occasionally, right? Everybody does that. It's normal. It's natural. Even native speakers make grammar mistakes when they write. It's a normal thing to do, and it's important to get those things out of your response to as much as possible in order to score an 8 in this category. Because, as you heard a moment ago, they're looking for mostly error-free sentences. Okay, but they're also, in grammatical range and accuracy, looking for how well you can use a wide variety of structures. Okay, so what this means is they don't want to see the same sentence patterns from you over and over and over throughout your essay. Simple sentence patterns like a subject, a verb, and then a short ending to your sentence there, right? They want to see more variation. They want to see transitions right at the beginning of the sentence using transition words and phrases in some places, right, to vary your response. They also want to see some longer sentences, complex sentences with subordination and other complicated structures like that, but then also some simpler things. You can use conjunctions, right, to just combine 2 sentences together, right? You can use an and in the middle of a sentence to combine one complete clause to another clause. Okay, now you don't want only long sentences. You want some short, some long, some simple, some complicated. They are looking for variation and your ability to use a variety of structures without making mistakes. That's what's going to get you to the band 8 level. Okay, so as you're working on your editing your grammar in your responses, look for that. Look for how many different types of sentences you're using, so how many different structures you're using, and if you're noticing you're using the same patterns over and over and over throughout your essay, do what you can to edit those. If you need help, go find somebody, a teacher, a native speaker, or somebody who is maybe not a native English speaker, but whose English is about your level or maybe hopefully better, that can give you advice on different ways to say things. Okay, but again, to get a band 8, We need these error-free sentences and a wide variety of structures that you use accurately. Okay, the next category, lexical resource. Okay, this is basically vocabulary, right? They're looking for your skill at using vocabulary, and they're looking for these specific things. Okay, they want you to use a wide range of vocabulary. They want to see that you're using vocabulary fluently and flexibly, okay, to convey precise meanings is the words that they use. They want to see that you use vocabulary skillfully and that you're using uncommon vocabulary, uncommon lexical items is how they describe it, right? And that there may be some occasional mistakes or inaccuracies, but in general, you're using vocabulary very accurately to describe what you mean to say. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. What do you need to do in order to achieve this level? And what does it mean to do all of these things? This is very similar to the grammar category that we looked at just a moment ago. They want to see that you use a wide range of vocabulary. That means you need to do things like avoiding using the same words over and over. It also means they need to see you paraphrasing, right? You want to make sure to not have the same words that were used in the prompt should not really appear very much, or if at all, hopefully, in your response. You want to use different words, different language, your own words and language to describe the ideas, not borrowing words from the prompt itself. That's something that is kind of a red flag for the grader, that maybe you don't have a very wide vocabulary because you have to rely on the words that were provided to you. When you're editing your responses, looking over what you are writing for task 1 and task 2, look for how wide of a range of vocabulary you're using. When you find that you use 1 or 2 or maybe even more words over and over and over throughout your essay, that should focus your studies. You should try your best to find different ways to say those words, different things you can say to replace those words you're using over and over, and that's an important part of your study in order to get up to that band 8 level where they're really looking for responses where the vocabulary use is varied, where you're not repeating yourself often, and that you're really showing off your grammatical skill, or excuse me, your vocabulary skill in all the sort of wide vocabulary that you're able to bring to the essay topic that they give you. Okay, but also, of course, there's an accuracy piece to this band score category, right? They want to see that you're using words and phrases appropriately, right? That the words and phrases you use sound like something that a native speaker would also write, okay? That they're not too formal or informal, or they're not presenting an idea that's maybe almost right, but not exactly precisely right, given the context of what you're saying in your response. So there's no easy way around this. Just like the grammar category we looked at earlier, where they're looking for, for you to be able to use a wide range of structures accurately, they're looking for you to use a wide range of vocabulary accurately. And the way to do that is to study vocabulary regularly. Okay, you need to be studying vocabulary regularly and systematically. Keep a journal. Keep word lists that have synonyms of words that you already know, right? You can write down a vocabulary word and then find other related words to that vocabulary word, and you study all of those meanings a little bit every day, and over time you're going to have a wide pool of vocabulary you can use to describe ideas in a very precise way, because each word often has a slightly different meaning. Okay, so keep a vocabulary journal. Make sure that you're keeping track of related words, words that have a similar meaning, maybe not exactly the same meaning. You can have a large pool of vocabulary, and if you're studying the different meanings of each of those related words, you can use them precisely and accurately. And that's what they're looking for at the band 8 level. Okay, so wide variety and accuracy in vocabulary is your goal for your band 8 score. Okay, the next category, coherence and cohesion. Here in this category, we're looking for how your ideas stick together, right? How you relate one idea to the next and one paragraph to the next. Your grader is looking for an essay where your ideas flow seamlessly from beginning to end without any logical gaps, or without wondering sort of, hey, where did that idea come from? Okay, or what's it related to? Okay, so specifically for Band 8, they're looking for this in this category. They want to see that you sequence information and ideas logically. They want to see that you're managing cohesion, all aspects of cohesion well. What do they mean by that? Well, we're talking about things like using pronouns, right? You say a person's name or something in one sentence, and the next sentence you accurately use a pronoun to describe that thing that you just discussed, okay? That's something that sort of brings cohesion to your writing. It pulls the sentences together because those ideas are related to one another in a very logical way. Okay, so finally then, they want to see that you're using paragraphing, okay, sufficiently and appropriately. So what does that mean? That means that you're breaking down your ideas into logical paragraphs, right? That you have something that introduces your main idea at the beginning of your response, that you have body paragraphs that are focused and describe ideas related to only one main idea in each before moving on to another paragraph that is also focused around one central topic, okay? And a conclusion, right? We're talking about your task 2 essay here in particular. They want to see that you're able to divide your ideas in your response up logically using paragraphs, okay? So what do you need to do to achieve all of these things that they're looking for at Band 8? Okay, so the good news about this category is that this is one in which you can make really big improvements. You can really help yourself, especially if you're not really familiar with essay structure and how to organize essay responses. The concepts are not extremely difficult, and you can implement them and do really well in this category by knowing a couple of things, okay? So the first thing you should really feel comfortable with is how to write those different types of paragraphs that should appear in your task 2 essays. Do you have much experience writing introductions with thesis statements where you're introducing the topic of an essay, providing your idea on that topic? Or do you have experience writing body paragraphs, right? Where you're supposed to have a topic sentence at the beginning, and then you provide details on that main idea as you go throughout. We're not going to go in depth into how to organize the paragraphs of your responses in this video, but this is something that I want to point you to so you understand these are things you can study that will really help your score. Knowing how to structure your responses, in particular to your task 2 essays, can really boost you higher in your coherence and cohesion category, right? So study those things. Study and get feedback about how well your ideas are organized into paragraphs from a friend, from a teacher, from someone who can help you to give you feedback about how well and how clearly your ideas are organized in your response. But another key thing you can do is to focus on using transition words and phrases well. This is another thing that provides cohesion in your response. Transition words, the purpose of them is to sort of introduce an idea in a sentence and provide a logical transition so that the reader understands as they're reading what relationship that sentence you're about to write has to a sentence that came before it, right? Or a paragraph that came before it, right? So work on that. Work on getting to know, studying transition words, right? Things like however, on the contrary, in addition. These kinds of words and phrases give the reader a sense of what you mean and what the relationships are about what you're saying, and they make your writing clearer, and they're looking for them. Now, you should not use transition words in every single sentence, okay? You want to use them a couple of times throughout your essay. They're a tool you have to help you, to help make ideas clear in your response. It's not something, though, that needs to or should exist in every single sentence or in the majority of your sentences in your response. You can definitely overuse them, but they are worth studying to help your sentences come together in your response to get a Band 8 in coherence and cohesion. A final thing to think about in this category, coherence and cohesion, is they really are, I mentioned this a moment ago, but they really are looking for your ability to use referencing. And that is something that is related to pronouns that we talked about a moment ago. The idea of referencing is that you're in a sentence you're writing, you refer backwards to something that you said earlier in your response, right? So pronouns are the main way that we do this, right? So you might say, Mike went to the store, then he went to work. Well, that he refers to Mike. And it can be complicated to use referencing accurately, right? Pronouns get tricky to use when you've got a lot of nouns in the sentence before, and it may be sometimes unclear which pronoun is supposed to refer to which noun that came in the previous sentence. It's worth revisiting your grammar textbook on pronouns and really mastering how to use them for referencing, because for a band level 8, they're looking for a strong mastery of pronouns and other referencing devices to help bring your sentences together, to make sure your ideas cohere together nicely at the band 8 level that you're trying to achieve. Okay, and then the fourth category on your writing rubric is task achievement, task response. Okay, and in this one, really what they're looking for is that you simply fulfilled all the requirements of the prompt that they gave you. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, on the one hand, it means that you sufficiently addressed all parts of the task. Okay, if the task asks you to provide an opinion on something, that opinion needs to be clear in the essay that you're writing. If they ask you to compare something, if they ask you to just simply provide a few arguments about whatever it is the topic is that you're responding to, you need to make sure you cover all of those points that are laid out for you in the task. Okay? Another thing, that you present a well-developed response to the question with relevant, extended, and supported ideas. Okay, so here they're looking for a complete response, that you responded to the prompt with enough detail, enough clear details to make the points that you were trying to make in response to the essay. Now, of course, a piece of this is that IELTS writing tasks have a minimum word count, right? So task 1, you've got a 150 word count that you need to achieve. And for the task 2, you've got a 250 word minimum that you need to surpass in order to avoid getting penalized for the word count. Okay, so they give you a kind of sense of what is the minimum you should be able to write. But at the band, if you're shooting for a band 8, probably the minimum is not your most concern, right? Probably you're trying to think about, well, what would it mean in order to really respond to both your task 1 and your task 2 prompt fully and completely meeting all the requirements of the task that they're looking for at this band 8 level. Okay, so what you need to do, first of all, for task 2 in particular, you need to understand all of the different types of task 2 questions that they might present to you, right? So for example, we talked about a couple of these already, but there's a task type where you're supposed to discuss 2 sides of something and then give your opinion on which side you prefer, usually, right? It's going to be an opinion between 2 sort of equal things, and you need to say what you think is best or what you prefer, right? That's one of the types. You need to understand that and understand how you're going to organize essays if they ask you to discuss 2 sides of something and provide your opinion. So another thing you need to do here is to make sure that your response has enough detail, okay? And particularly for task 2, one of the problems I see students who score below an 8 is that they provide pretty general ideas, right? Their body paragraphs in particular will have a main point at the beginning, and then they'll provide a couple of general reasons for the ideas that they're presenting. At the band 8 level, you need to have detailed responses. You need to provide examples. You need to provide specifics, okay? So your body paragraphs should go into depth about the ideas that you're talking about. Okay, so for example, If you're talking about why you prefer to do your homework on a computer as opposed to writing it on a piece of paper. Okay, I don't know if that is a real topic you might get, but let's just imagine it is, okay? And you prefer to write your responses on a computer. Okay, so you might think of some reasons why. Maybe you're faster at typing than you are at handwriting. Maybe it's easier to edit, okay, on a computer compared to writing something by hand where you have to erase with an eraser and it takes time and it looks sloppy, right? Okay, so you've got two main reasons there, right? So it's easier to edit and it's maybe faster for you to write on a computer. Okay, those are two good general reasons, but a Band 8 response is going to go into more depth than that. Okay, so let's think about the example of how it's easier to edit on a computer. You need to say, well, what do you mean about that? How is it better or easier to edit on a computer? Well, when you type something on a computer, you can quickly highlight the whole thing, hit delete, and it's completely gone, and you can revise the sentence. Or if you don't like one word that you're using in a paragraph or a phrase or a sentence, you can quickly erase that one word and type something in its place, and it fits nicely and it's easy to put that thing in there. Or maybe when I'm editing on my computer, I like to sometimes say, well, I like this idea earlier in my essay or later in my essay, and so I'm just gonna copy that thing and paste it somewhere else in my essay. These are all details, reasons why I think, or someone might think, it's easier to write on computer compared to on paper. Those kinds of details give more depth to your response. They help the reader know exactly what you're thinking about as you respond. And it's those kinds of details that they're looking for you to include at the Band 8 level. Okay, so make sure your response has lots and lots of nice details. You're not just speaking about general main ideas the whole time, that your body paragraphs in particular provide more depth. So if you want more information about band score levels and how to achieve really the best score you can possibly get on IELTS Writing Tasks 1 and 2, we've got complete guides to both sections down below in the description, guides to Task 1 and Task 2, where you can get lots of information about IELTS writing and what you need to do well in that section of the test. And if you like this video and you want more IELTS content, we've got some great videos up here you can check out. More information about the IELTS exam that's going to help you do great on the test.